Hey, John, can you hear me okay?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, got you now.
Good. All right.
Yeah, just jumping in a room here. Hold on one second. Let's get this here.
Recording in progress.
Whoa.
Max headroom.
Okay, there we go. I'm switching over to from my phone to my laptop. Nice echo there.
No problem.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Taylor?
Good, really good. So Anthony, go ahead.
You're recording this. Would you share the recording with me afterwards?
Absolutely.
All right, great.
So Anthony, the one that originally set this up, was telling me briefly kind of your situation and kind of what you were looking for. But why don't you just kind of give me the brief overview of who you are and what you do and why we're chatting today.
All right. So I'm a real estate investor, and I also manage the renovation of properties for a group of investors. And we have several projects going on at the same time, both residential and commercial, multi-residential, single-family homes, and commercial properties. And what we're doing right now is installing hike vision cameras and blink cameras on job sites so that we can keep an eye of what's going on. And that works fine, but it doesn't serve as any kind of a deterrent. I'm not really in the so two things. One, I'd like to have real-time monitoring of the cameras, both existing cameras and your product. And then the other is I'm interested in the visual deterrence of having conspicuous security cameras, which is something that I'm not getting with my current installations. But I'm not confident that that's going to provide any kind of a deterrence, because the kinds of theft that we're dealing with happens in broad daylight in front of a crew. They're not deterred. So
pretty ruthless.
Yeah. So just because we have a very conspicuous, camera setup with blinking lights and all that stuff doesn't mean anything unless somebody's watching it and can report it and someone can intervene.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your mindset, because you are so far ahead of a lot of people that I meet with. I think you kind of understand the concept a little better than a lot of people. So,
all right.
Right. Traditional cameras are very passive, right? They're good for going back and kind of looking at stuff that's already happened, but how do we go one step forward and just try and prevent things before they become a real issue, right?
Right.
And so let me ask, how did you hear about us?
Oh, I saw your camera trailers somewhere in public. I don't know if it was Lowe's or someplace, and I took a picture of it to get the name of the company that's doing it. Are you the one that's got Lowe's contract?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, that's where I saw it then.
Yeah. And where are you located?
I'm in Alameda, California. I'm right across the bay from San Francisco.
Okay, cool. I was going to say, we do Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, and yeah, these standalone systems are extremely popular right now. We have about 8,000 of these camera trailers across the US. So they're very popular, and kind of for the points that you touched on is we want a visual deterrence, right? We want people to recognize that something is there and that something's going to happen if boundaries are broken, right? So let me just share my screen with you real quick. It's good that you've seen them, so you kind of have a good idea of, what it is and what it looks like. Can you see that okay?
But yeah, I can see that perfectly. By the way, have you had instances where people steal your entire machine here, the entire trailer?
So we haven't had really any instances where people are taking the whole trailer, which is good.
Yeah,
But not to say that it's never going to happen. And there's a
yeah,
few different things that we kind of put in place to prevent that from happening.
yeah.
So like, for example, right, the unit itself, when it's kind of fully deployed and put out in a scenario, it weighs about 2,000 pounds. And right, it's on a trailer system, but there's a hitch right here, this kind of tilt bar that tilts up, locks into place against the mast. There's
Mhm.
these kind of arms that come out from each side with lock boxes that go over each of the hitches, each of the
Mhm.
jacks. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that unless you like tie a chain around this thing and like towed it with your truck down the road, like it's pretty difficult to like move the whole entire system. Like it's kind of wonky and heavy and large. Um, and obviously, like when we're putting these things out, we realize they're not really going to like super happy, friendly neighborhoods, right?
No,
They're
and
usually going to bad spots.
everything you can imagine has been stolen off of a job site. Every piece of equipment there is, somebody figures out some way to remove it.
Yeah.
So that's why I
And
asked.
we've had a lot of people, smash the solar panels or try and get into the boxes or even climb these things and try and get to the cameras. And, we've had all sorts of crazy stuff happen, but we've
Yeah.
never actually had somebody like take the whole entire piece as a whole.
So as a client, if I'm leasing this from you and it's vandalized in that way, am I insured for that through you, or is it my insurance that pays for this vandalism?
Nope. So we take care of everything on that front for you. So yeah, even if accidents happen on the job site, someone bumps it with their car or if it's, somebody else is right smashing solar panels or doing anything to the unit, it's
Yeah,
completely covered by us under that subscription. So you'll never have to pay anything more, never have to file a claim or anything. Just let us know and we have a technician come out and repair anything that's damaged. It's pretty
right.
simple.
So
Yep.
do you have a cellular uplink? Is that how you're getting the video? Am I able to watch this live and also have a user interface just like I do with Hike Vision to set up alerts, analytics, search by event? Is there a license plate reader option? Also, is it stored locally or is it stored in the cloud or both?
Yeah, great questions. So it is all cellular based. LiveView is somewhat unique in the fact that we are not limited to just one cellular carrier. Basically, when we deploy this system, the system's smart enough that when we flip it on, it's going to kind of pull a bunch of data and say which cellular provider is strongest in this area, and that's what it's automatically going to tether itself to, whether it's Verizon or AT&T or whatever is the best. And then yes, obviously, real-time streaming capabilities are a must in today's day and age, right? So everything is done via cellular, and you can log in to your system live and view it from your phone. We have a really cool app that you can do and control all the cameras, control the system, and then as well just a web portal login. And then yes, basically we have what we call a VMS, a video management system, where you can manage all your cameras and your presets and what you wanted to look at. And then as well, we have a command center, which is basically where all of your alerts get routed, right? We can basically have it set up to say, hey, from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., there should be nobody on the site. It's locked down. There should be nobody there. And we basically geofence around the job site, right? Basically draw a line around the boundary and say, cars can drive by at night. People can walk by on the sidewalk and you're not going to get alerted. But as soon as someone crosses that fence or crosses that geofence, that's when, a text notification or an email notification or third-party monitoring company jumps in live and then reacts in however you want them to react.
Well,
right.
I'm a little confused about the geofencing with respect to cameras, because I'm only accustomed to being able to set a location that if anything moves within that boundary, then I get an alert. But that's not geofencing. So what kind of technology do you have that's allowing that?
Yeah, great question. So I'm glad you brought up Hike Vision, because we actually utilize Hike Vision on our units as well.
Okay. That
so
looks
this
a
is
little bit like that PTZ from Hike Vision there.
Yeah. So the left and the right this is a pretty standard configuration head unit for us. So the left and the right cameras are both Hike Vision PTZs, and you'll
Yes.
notice that they have a thermal lens and an optical lens. They're kind of stacked on top of each other. So they basically look, at the same exact thing. But what we do, instead of like motion detection within a certain area, we just found that you get a lot of like false alerts with motion detection, right? If there's tarps blowing in the wind or, tumbleweeds going through, you're going to get alerted, but we really don't care about that, right? To be quite honest, we want to know whether there's a human or a vehicle, or anything else with a heat signature. So the thermal cameras basically give us the power to run all of our analytics via heat signature. So not motion detection, but it's just all heat signature based. So basically we draw a boundary within the camera view and say, hey, whenever there's a heat signature that crosses into this boundary, that's when I want to get notified.
I don't recall seeing a Hike Vision camera that did that. But I tend to buy the same ones over and over.
Yeah. So these, I don't even know if you can publicly buy these. I know these were designed specifically for LVT Technologies from Hike Vision. Yeah. It's a pretty cool kind of proprietary thing that we have going on. So it's pretty neat. Yeah. And yeah, all the cameras we use are all PTZ cameras, right? You can control it from your phone, your laptop, obviously 360-degree PTZ cameras. And we can kind of swap any of the cameras out for, like, for example, we usually do thermals on the side and then just a regular optical in the middle that can kind of roam around. But a lot of people opt to have a third, thermal in the middle so they can get a wider detection zone. And that's not going to cost you anything extra, right? You can kind of plug and play the different configurations and there's no extra cost to, switching or swapping.
You have customers savvy enough that they're specifying the configuration of the device.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you're dealing with the security professionals with these big box stores then.
Yeah. So they'll approach us and say, kind of, here's the spec sheet or here's what we need.
Yeah.
And that's largely kind of how this got designed, was from, people giving us feedback and saying, hey, you should use these and maybe move away from these cameras. And so we've kind of gone through, many iterations of the system, but this is definitely where we're at right now, which is cool. So
how is this better than just installing these cameras on the building?
Yeah, great question. Two things that I normally, I guess, talk about in that scenario. The first thing is it's obviously on a mobile platform that's meant to be moved. So like construction or as a site, moves, the ability that we have to just kind of move this to different places on the site to get a better line of sight, or when a building goes vertical, maybe your views are blocked, to move it, just to have the flexibility. And kind of what you were talking about as well, the visual deterrence of having something there. It's very much meant to like stand out and to have people like recognize that it's there. You get that a little bit with just mounted cameras, but these things definitely like catch your attention more than just a PTZ on the wall, or however you want to look at it. So
I obviously like the attention aspect of it, but the other thing I like about it, that attracted me primarily, is that there's the vantage view. It's more difficult for me to set up a camera to look at the project as opposed to mounting the cameras on the building and looking out, or cross views looking along the walls. This is just a perspective that I want, but is not easily achievable on my job sites.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. The typical height that these sit at is about 22, 23 feet. So you do get a pretty good kind of bird's eye angle view of whatever you're looking down at, which is really convenient. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is there's a big speaker that sits on top of these systems. The speaker is loud. Okay, it's 120 decibels. It is loud. Like if you're using it, people are gonna hear it. The cool thing is you can actually utilize this speaker to talk down in real time. So if you logged in on your phone or from the VMS and someone's on the site and they're wearing a red hat, you could say, hey, you in the red hat, I see you, you're not supposed to be here. You need to leave, or we're going to notify the police, or however you want to handle it.
Yeah.
And that can be done by you, or that can be done by the third party monitoring group. It's basically like having a person there without actually having to have a person there. And if you're on site and you get called out by what you're wearing, it solidifies that somebody is actually watching what you're doing. It's not just a recording, right? Because I think many people, if a recording plays, they're like, oh yeah, that's just a recorded message, I can keep doing what I'm doing. But it solidifies that someone's like actually watching you in real time, and then can dispatch the police or show up to the site, or whatever you want to do with
Yeah,
that.
that's convenient to have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, so when I was speaking to your colleague, Anthony, was it?
Yeah.
So he mentioned that these are a lease of with monitoring is $3,500 a month.
Mhm.
Now, I'm thinking in order to get complete coverage, I need to have at least 3 of them on a job site in order to see all the way around. And at that price point, it's cheaper for me to have a security guard.
Yep.
So I was looking at this as an opportunity to save money over having live security there. And I wondered if you can speak to why it is that this would make more sense for me to spend our dollars on your product as opposed to live security.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought that up. I will tell you, well, let's talk about timeline, for example. Like the job site that you're thinking to put this on, how long of a timeline until that project is completed? Like how long would you want these on the site?
So it ranges from 3 months to a year. It rarely goes longer than that because it just every month costs money. We got to turn them over as quickly as possible. So these are all going to be short-term leases. And is that a problem? Is it month to month, or?
So typically, I'm glad we talked about this. Typically, we're looking for a minimum of 3 months. A year is typically like a sweet spot for us. Like hopefully we're shooting something close to a year. And that's why, like the price, for example, right? $3,500 is kind of like the absolute ceiling. Like if you know, if you're on the shortest term contract and you only have one unit, you're probably going to pay the ceiling, right? But say if you had say, hey, I need 3 units and I need them for like 10 months, your
Yeah.
cost is going to be brought way down. Like that's how we kind of imply the discounts is how many units do you need and what's the timeline that we're looking at them for, right?
So is there some
Um,
rough rule of thumb of a certain percent discount for every additional unit? And then how much of a percentage can I enjoy um as I increase the duration? Is yes, in my situation, I want to complete the project as quickly as possible and be out of there.
yeah,
And so I am not, my mindset is not, oh yeah, let's do 10 months. I'm hoping that I'm not going to be there in 10 months.
out of there before 10 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm probably never going to opt for that unless
Yeah.
it's a really big project. So I'm concerned that I'm going to be stuck in the upper end of this this pricing structure just by virtue of how I
So
do business.
yeah, and a lot of times too, especially with construction, right? Because that's absolutely what we don't want is somebody to sign a contract for 10 months, be done in 6 months, and then say, okay, what do we do now? Right? We have these units and we're done. You're right.
Yeah.
We're not gonna make you keep them for the length of that. We're not gonna keep billing you or make you buy out your contract or anything like that. Now,
Well, in
what
other equipment rentals, I'm stuck paying for like 50% of the duration of the lease.
yeah, yeah, which is not fun, right? Everyone does their best to try and estimate, but obviously, like we're understanding that we're never going to get it exactly right, right? So there's kind of two different ways that most people approach it. They either start with a shorter term contract and say, hey, I'm just going to do 3 months. And then when I get to the end of 3 months, I can either extend or I can be done. Or on the flip side, there is no I guess limit as to some people will say, hey, I'm going to subscribe for 24 months
Mhm.
for a single unit. And then basically it's meant to be moved, right? The unit is meant to be moved and meant to bounce around.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people say, hey, I'm going to subscribe longer to get the better price point, and then I'm just going to move it from job site to job site as I need it because I know I'm going to have jobs that will need it for the
And
next 2 years or whatever.
all right. So I could, and can I move it myself?
Yes, you can. Yep,
Okay. Um, so I could essentially do a long-term lease to get the best price and just move it around.
absolutely.
And what if I have no place to put it for a period of time? What if it's 30 or 60 or 90 days before I've got the next project lined up, and it's sitting in my storage yard? Am I paying for it that whole time, or is there any kind of grace?
Yeah, great question. And that's what I was going to say too, is if you do have that scenario, all you have to do is reach out to us and say, hey, I'm in a break, I'm in an in-between, and we'll basically stop your billing, right? Because we don't want you to have to pay for it if you're not going to be utilizing it. And we basically measure all that. So we basically will look at, hey, when the unit gets delivered to a site and it gets turned on and activated, we can see the activation date, right? So that's one thing we'll just check, right? You say, hey, it's sitting at my home base or my yard or whatever, and I'm not using it on a project. Just let us know. We're not going to bill you if you're not using it. So, and then same thing. Hey, I just delivered it to my other site. It's ready to be activated again. I want to use the cameras again. We'll reactivate it. And then from that day is when your billing will basically resume. So it's
All
not
right.
like you're locked into anything. Like I said, we don't want to make you pay for.
But we're also tying up your asset.
That's true. But if we have a contract long enough and we know that like business is going to be continual with you,
Yeah.
that's kind of the sacrifice that we're willing to take if you're using it and you're, utilizing it in a good way. We're not going to be super, super strict about that stuff. So
you were going to speak to pricing structure and a rough idea of what kind of percentage discount I can enjoy by longer duration leases, and then also what kind of pricing structure there is for a second and third unit.
yeah. So I don't have like a specific like hard number that basically kind of varies for each unit. I basically have a certain kind of percentage that I can work within. So basically it's from 0 to 20% is what basically I'm given as a sales rep that I can kind of play within. So for example, right, if we start at $3,500 and in this scenario, let's say you want 3 units and you want them for 6 months, well, that'll probably shoot at, I don't know, 8%, 10%, somewhere in that ballpark. Which at a $3,500 price point, that's at least a few $100 off per unit per month. And it kind of and after this call too, I can drop a few different quotes just so you can see the different scenarios of like, hey, here's what 12 months looks like. Here's what 24 months looks like. Here's what 3 months looks like, because they're all going to be different. And I can do a bunch of different scenarios for you just so you can have the hard kind of numbers. But that's kind of the range that I'm kind of given the freedom. Anything above that, I just have to go get approval, which is not fun. But yeah, it just kind of varies kind of in somewhere in that field of 0 to 20% that I can play around with and kind of hook you up. So,
all right. I think I interrupted you when you were going to tell me how this represented a better value than having an on-site security guard.
Yeah. So do you have a property address for one of your sites just off the top of your head?
I don't know one by heart. Hang on.
You're fine. Or even like your office building or just someplace that you're familiar with that I can kind of show you.
All right. 1815 Clement Avenue, Alameda.
This right here.
Yes.
Okay. So let me take that address. We basically have a mapping tool that we use where we can kind of, roughly place a unit on the map. Here. Okay, perfect. So if we got one of these units, actually, let's go this one. So basically on this unit, we have the 3 different camera heads, which are represented by each of the 3 different kind of viewing angles here. Now keep in mind the left and the right have those thermal cameras, but we'll kind of draw this up here. Now the thermal cameras can detect a heat signature up to about 300 feet away. So for example, if we pump these things up, 300 feet viewing angle.
300 feet is like twice the distance that I'm accustomed to being able to have any usable video.
Yeah. So I'll show you in our VMS here in a second, kind of, I guess, the range of the cameras in real time. I'll pull up a unit and stream it for you. But this is kind of a standard of basically what we would plan on of coverage. Now, keep in mind, these are all PTZ cameras that can be pointed in any direction. So if we put it up against this wall and say, hey, I want this whole entire kind of area covered. I want it to be able to see this fence, all the way down here. what I'm trying to get at is usually these units are able to cover a lot more than sometimes we think, perceiving. So maybe, whereas on this job site, maybe you think of 3 units and maybe we could do it in 2 units or even in 1 unit, depending on where the entries and the exits are and kind of fence lines and stuff like that. But
Well,
this is just to give you an idea.
where you are now is facing a wall. This entire footprint is now building. So I would have to have 4 of them, perhaps even 5 of them to cover this particular site.
So you're saying there's a building within here and then maybe some like exterior roads and stuff that go around?
Now this entire footprint is structure. Here,
Interesting.
move. Go to Street View. Can you see my mouse?
I can't.
Okay, you see where it says KAD models and prototypes?
Yeah.
Go to Street View right there. You see what we have on that lot?
Gotcha. So this is the building that you're referencing.
Yes. And you're looking at that. The other view was before this went up.
Interesting. Okay. Let me come down here. I assume this isn't included in that project, or
No.
it is.
It's not.
I see. Now, is this street kind of open for public access, or is this a gate right here?
That's gate is closed and locked at night. You see what we have on the wall right there? Scroll to the left. Look at
This guy?
yeah.
Yep. Okay, let me come down here some more. I don't think it'll let me go any further. I was gonna say, so is this kind of whole yard right here still locked down, obviously?
Right.
But we could potentially place one in there if we wanted to, correct?
Yeah, right over where you were pointing just now. You could. We can't, not out here though.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is open space,
Right.
sure. Wow, that's a big project.
Yes. Everywhere in that fence line, we'd be okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, that looks like,
Yep.
what was that like? Do you guys use another provider like Stealth Monitoring or something like that?
No, I use my own people.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So yeah, so basically, so on this site, for example, let's see here. If we place one on the corner, for example, like on the corner of where that one was. I mean, yeah. I mean, realistically, if you wanted to cover the entire perimeter of the site, like if
Yeah.
you wanted to cover all those fence lines, you'd probably be looking at basically just one in each corner that you're looking down each side.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So let's just do some quick math here. So let's estimate, how much longer do you think this job site is going to go for?
This one's going to go for several years.
Oh, it's going to keep going?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just say on like an annual basis, okay, 12 months. Say we got you on at like $2,700 a month. Okay. Let's do 2,700 times 4 units times 12 months. So you'd be looking roughly 130 grand to basically put 4 units out here for the year. I was going to say, usually we love to compare ourselves directly to guards because oftentimes we are cheaper and you don't have to deal with the guards and they don't play games on their phones. They don't fall asleep in their car.
Yeah, but these numbers don't look like that's what's happening here.
I was going to say, as the unit count goes up, obviously, it becomes closer and closer to, having a guard. But for example, if you are paying a guard, I don't know, maybe $25 an hour, does that sound accurate? $20 an hour,
Mhm.
somewhere in there.
That's somewhere in there.
Now, if you did get security guards, would you put them on site 24 hours a day, or would you only have them there after hours?
Only after hours.
So that's one thing that I guess, that can compete, is that this thing is on site 24 hours a day. It's never going home, right?
Yeah,
Especially
so
if you're having people take stuff in broad daylight.
so I certainly recognize the benefit to that, but
Yeah,
just from being able to have video footage of what's going on, it has some value. But if we're dealing with theft from individuals that are so brazen that they'll do it when the job site is open, then there's not really any benefit from the the LVT cameras. That it's they're just going to do it anyway. So from my budget perspective, I'm just spending a lot more money than I need to.
yeah. Now, obviously, this project is a little tricky, it being vertical and kind of the line of sights. Is this kind of the main one that you're kind of focusing on right now, or are there others that you're wanting to explore?
There's others.
Okay. Because I was going to say, obviously, you have to do what's best for your business, right? It's like, if it doesn't make sense to go with us, that's fine, right? And so we're going to lose sometimes, right? But obviously, we want to try and build a relationship and help where we can, because in a lot of instances, it does make sense. Obviously, this particular job site, it might not make sense to go with us, which is fine. And we want to try and win and earn that business from you. But I'm just trying to think of what else we can do to try and, maybe try it on another site, see if you like it for 3 or 6 months. And then if it goes really well and, things are increasing, you could move it to this one. Or I'm just trying to brainstorm on how else we can be, helpful here. What are your
Well,
thoughts?
I'm not saying that I won't use this somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm obviously intrigued enough to speak to you about it, but I'm having a little difficulty with the budget
The budget aspect of it.
because right now it costs me less to have a security guard driving around the building.
Yeah. And I guess the security guards that are there, like, have you had instances where, like, if a security guard saw something happening in real time, like, is the security guard going to intervene and actually stop what's happening, or?
It won't do anything that a camera would do. I mean, they observe and report. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't go and get in mixed up in it.
Yeah. Which is a difficult situation, right? I wouldn't really want to approach people that don't look super friendly that are stealing stuff.
Yeah.
I don't blame them, Let me show you a few more things real quick
Okay.
that might just give a little bit more perspective on kind of what we provide from a software standpoint. Okay. So this unit that I have pulled up here, this is with a property management group down in Atlanta. But this is what we call our VMS, what we're looking at right here, video management system. You log in, username, password, and then you have access to all your different, units or cameras that you're looking at. So here at this location, we